The rain was coming down hard that Tuesday evening when Maya pulled her black Tesla into the circular driveway of the Grand Heritage Hotel. She had been driving for 3 hours straight from the airport, and all she wanted was to check into her room, take a hot shower, and prepare for tomorrow's business conference. This wasn't just any conference either.
Maya was scheduled to give the keynote speech to over 500 tech executives about her journey from a small apartment startup to building a $50 million company. She grabbed her designer briefcase and small rolling suitcase from
the trunk. Maya had learned long ago that first impressions mattered in business, so she always dressed the part. Tonight she wore a tailored navy suit with elegant pearl earrings, her natural hair styled in a professional updo. She looked every bit the successful entrepreneur she had become. The Grand Heritage Hotel was known for being one of the most exclusive places to stay in the city. With its marble floors, crystal chandeliers, and gold-trimmed everything, it screamed luxury from every corner. Maya had stayed here twice before during business trips, and both times the service had been exceptional. She was even a platinum member of their loyalty program, which meant she got room upgrades, late checkouts, and priority treatment. As she walked through the massive glass doors, Maya noticed how busy the lobby was. Well-dressed business people sat in leather chairs making phone calls, while others stood in small groups discussing deals over expensive cocktails. The sound of her heels clicked against the marble floor as she made her way to the front desk. Behind the counter stood a middle-aged man with slicked-back hair and a name tag that read, Manager Robert. He was helping another guest, so Maya waited patiently in line. She pulled out her phone to double-check her confirmation number and smiled when she saw the email. Everything was in order. Room 412, 2 nights, platinum member benefits included. When it was finally her turn, Maya stepped forward with a warm smile. Good evening, I have a reservation under Maya Johnson. Confirmation number is RT4789. Robert barely looked up from his computer screen. His fingers tapped away at the keyboard for what seemed like forever. Maya waited, assuming he was just pulling up her information and getting her room key ready. I'm sorry, Robert finally said, still not making eye contact. I don't see any reservation under that name. Maya felt a small knot form in her stomach, but she kept her voice calm and professional. That's strange. Let me give you my confirmation number again. It's RT4789. I made this reservation 3 weeks ago. More typing, more waiting. Robert's expression didn't change at all. No, there's nothing here. Are you sure you made the reservation for tonight? Yes, I'm absolutely certain. Maya pulled out her phone and showed him the confirmation email. Look, here's the email confirmation. It clearly shows tonight's date and this hotel. Robert glanced at the phone screen for maybe 2 seconds. Well, our system shows something different. I'm afraid we don't have any available rooms tonight. We're completely booked. Maya blinked in surprise. This had never happened to her before at any hotel, let alone one where she was a loyalty member. But I have a guaranteed reservation. I'm a platinum member. Surely there must be something you can do. I understand your frustration, but there's really nothing I can do. We're full. Robert's tone was dismissive, like he was talking to someone, asking for spare change rather than a paying customer with a confirmed reservation. Just then, another guest approached the desk. A white man in his 50s wearing a wrinkled business suit and carrying a beat-up briefcase. He looked like he had just finished a long day of travel. Excuse me, the man said, stepping right up to the counter next to Maya. I don't have a reservation, but I'm hoping you might have a room available for tonight. I know it's last minute. Maya watched in disbelief as Robert's entire demeanor changed. Suddenly his face lit up with the biggest smile. Of course, sir. Let me see what we have available for you. His fingers flew across the keyboard with enthusiasm. Yes, we have several excellent rooms available. Would you prefer a city view or garden view? Maya felt like she was watching a completely different person. This was the same man who had just told her they were completely booked. The same man who had barely looked at her confirmation email. Now he was practically bending over backward to help someone who didn't even have a reservation. I'll take whatever you have. The man replied gratefully. Wonderful. I have a beautiful suite on the 7th floor with a city view. And since you're staying with us tonight, I'll upgrade you to our premium package at no extra charge. That includes breakfast, late checkout, and access to our executive lounge. Maya stood there speechless. She couldn't believe what she was witnessing. This man was getting a suite and premium treatment without even having a reservation, while she was being turned away despite having a confirmed booking and loyalty status. The transaction was completed in less than 5 minutes. The man got his key card, directions to the elevator, and a warm send-off from Robert. As he walked away with a spring in his step, Maya stepped back up to the counter. "I'm sorry, but I need to understand what just happened here," Maya said, her voice still controlled but with a slight edge. "You just told me you were completely booked, but you just gave that gentleman a suite. How is that possible?" Robert's friendly expression disappeared instantly. His face went back to the cold, dismissive look he had given Maya earlier. "That was our last available room. Your last available room was a suite that you upgraded for free?" "Yes." Maya felt anger rising in her chest, but she had learned through years of business dealings to never let emotions cloud her judgment. She needed to think strategically. This wasn't just poor customer service. This was something else entirely. She pulled out her phone and opened the voice recording app. "I want to make sure I understand this correctly. You're telling me that you have no record of my confirmed reservation, no available rooms for a platinum loyalty member, but you had a premium suite available for someone without any reservation at all?" "That's correct." Robert's answer was short and clipped. Other guests in the lobby were starting to notice the conversation. Maya could see people glancing over, some with curiosity, others with knowing looks that suggested they understood exactly what was happening. Maya made a decision that would change everything. Instead of arguing further or demanding to speak to a higher manager, she simply nodded. "I see. Well, thank you for your time." She walked away from the desk and found a quiet corner of the lobby where she could think. Maya pulled out her phone and started making notes about everything that had just happened. The time, the date, Robert's name, the exact words that were said, and the witness of other guests. As she sat there, Maya realized this wasn't about a computer glitch or an honest mistake. The difference in treatment had been too obvious, too dramatic. She had just experienced something she had hoped she would never face in her successful career, but deep down, she knew exactly what it was. Maya looked around the luxurious lobby, where she had been made to feel unwelcome, and a small smile crossed her face. She had an idea, but this time she wasn't going to react with anger or frustration. She was going to respond the way she handled everything else in business, with careful planning, thorough research, and strategic thinking. The hotel had no idea who they had just messed with. Maya spent the night at a smaller hotel down the street, but sleep didn't come easily. She kept replaying the events at the Grand Heritage Hotel in her mind. By morning, she had made a decision. She wasn't going to let this slide, but she also wasn't going to handle it the way most people might expect. Instead of immediately calling lawyers or posting angry reviews online, Maya decided to do what she did best: conduct thorough research. If this was really about discrimination, she needed proof. And if it was a pattern, she needed to document it properly. The next morning, Maya attended her conference as planned. Her keynote speech went perfectly, and she received 3 standing ovations. But even as she smiled and shook hands with other executives, her mind was focused on her investigation plan. After the conference ended, Maya drove back to the Grand Heritage Hotel. This time, she parked across the street, where she could observe the front entrance without being seen. She had her laptop, a notepad, and a clear view of everyone going in and out. For the next 3 hours, Maya watched and took notes. She documented every guest interaction she could see through the large glass windows. What she observed made her stomach turn. Every time a black guest approached the front desk, there seemed to be some kind of delay or problem. She watched a well-dressed black couple spend 20 minutes at the counter, clearly frustrated before finally leaving empty-handed. A black businessman in an expensive suit had a similar experience. Lots of typing, phone calls, and head shaking from the staff before he too walked away disappointed. But white guests were handled completely differently. Quick check-ins, friendly smiles, and smooth transactions. The pattern was so obvious that Maya couldn't believe she was the first person to notice it. Maya decided to dig deeper. She started making phone calls to people in her network, other Black entrepreneurs, executives, and business leaders. What she discovered made her even more determined to get to the bottom of this. Her fry. And Keisha, who ran a successful marketing agency, told her about a similar experience at the same hotel 6 months earlier. "Girl, I thought I was going crazy," Keisha said over the phone. "I had a confirmed reservation, but they claimed their system was down. Meanwhile, I watched them check in 5 other people while I stood there." Another colleague, David, shared an almost identical story. He had been denied a room during a medical conference despite having booked months in advance. "They kept saying, there was a problem with my credit card, even though I showed them 3 different cards that all worked perfectly fine." The more people Maya talked to, the more stories she collected. It wasn't just random bad luck or computer errors. There was definitely a pattern here. Maya decided to take her investigation to the next level. She created a fake email account and made a reservation online using a name that didn't immediately indicate race, Jordan Smith. The reservation went through instantly, with a confirmation number and everything. Then she had her white assistant, Rebecca, call the hotel to make a reservation for the same night. Rebecca was told they had plenty of rooms available and was even offered an upgrade to a suite. Finally, Maya called herself, using her real name and speaking in her natural voice. Suddenly, the hotel was completely booked. No rooms available, anywhere. System problems, you know the drill. Maya sat in her home office staring at the evidence she had gathered. 3 different approaches, 3 completely different results. There was no denying what was happening here. But Maya wanted to go even further. She reached out to a private investigator she had used for business due diligence in the past. Within a week, he came back with information that shocked even her. The investigator had found employment records showing that the Grand Heritage Hotel had been sued twice in the past 5 years for discrimination. Both cases had been settled out of court with confidentiality agreements. He also discovered internal emails between staff members that used coded language when discussing problematic guests. "They have a whole system," the investigator explained, during their meeting. "They use terms like corporate policy issues and booking irregularities when they want to deny service to certain guests. It's all documented in their internal communications." Maya felt her anger building, but she forced herself to stay focused. Getting mad wouldn't solve anything. She needed to think strategically about her next move. That evening, Maya sat in her living room surrounded by papers, printouts, and notes. She had documentation of multiple incidents, witness statements from other victims, proof of the hotel's discriminatory practices, and evidence of their previous legal troubles. But as she reviewed everything, something nagging at the back of her mind kept bothering her. She felt like she was missing something important. Maya had built her business by paying attention to details that others missed, and her instincts were telling her there was more to this story. She decided to look into the hotel's ownership structure. Maya had learned long ago that understanding who really controlled a business was crucial to figuring out how to deal with them effectively. What she found in the public records made her pause. The Grand Heritage Hotel wasn't owned by a single person or even a traditional hotel company. It was owned by a complex web of investment firms and holding companies. Maya started tracing the ownership trail, following one company to another, then to another. It was like peeling back layers of an onion. Each layer revealed another company, another set of investors, another level of ownership. As she dug deeper into the financial records, Maya began to recognize some of the names involved. These weren't random investors. Some of these were companies she knew, firms she had worked with, people in her professional network. Maya's heart started beating faster as she continued following the money trail. The deeper she went, the more familiar the names became. She recognized investment partners, holding companies, even some individual investors. And then she found it, the piece of information that would change everything. Maya stared at her laptop screen in disbelief. She read the document 3 times to make sure she wasn't imagining things. Then she leaned back in her chair and started laughing. Not a happy laugh, but the kind of laugh that comes when something is so ironic you can't quite believe it's real. Hidden deep in the ownership structure, buried under layers of investment firms and holding companies, Maya had found her own name. Well, not exactly her name, but the name of her investment portfolio management company. 2 years ago, Maya had invested in a diversified real estate fund as part of her retirement planning. She had put in $2 million and basically forgotten about it, trusting her financial advisors to manage the details. Apparently, that fund had used her money, along with money from other investors, to purchase several properties, including the Grand Heritage Hotel. Maya Johnson, the black entrepreneur who had been denied a room due to discrimination, was actually one of the owners of the very hotel that had discriminated against her. She sat in her living room staring at the ownership documents, trying to process what this meant. She owned part of the business that had treated her like a second-class citizen. Her own money had been used to purchase a property that operated with racist policies. Maya felt a mix of anger, irony, and something else. Opportunity. This changed everything about how she could handle the situation. She wasn't just a victim of discrimination anymore. She was an owner who had been discriminated against by her own business. Maya picked up her phone and started making calls. First to her financial advisor to confirm the ownership details, then to her lawyer to understand her legal rights as a partial owner, and finally to a few other investors she knew who might be in similar situations. By the end of the night, Maya had a completely new plan. This wasn't just about getting justice for herself anymore. This was about using her position as an owner to create real, lasting change. The hotel management had no idea what was coming their way. Maya woke up the next morning with a sense of purpose she hadn't felt in years. The irony of her situation was almost too perfect to believe. She had spent the last week documenting discrimination against herself, only to discover that she was actually paying for it through her own investment dollars. Her first call was to her financial advisor, Michael, who managed her investment portfolio. Maya had always trusted him to make smart decisions with her money, but clearly there were some details they needed to discuss. "Michael, I need you to pull up my real estate investment fund from 2 years ago, the Wilson Holdings Diversified Portfolio." "Sure, Maya. That's been performing really well, actually. Up about 18% since you invested. Why do you ask?" "I need to know exactly what properties are in that fund." There was silence on the other end while Michael pulled up the records. "Okay, let me see here. There are 12 commercial properties total. Office buildings, retail spaces, and 3 hotels. The largest hotel investment is something called the Grand Heritage Hotel downtown. Beautiful property from what I understand." Maya felt that familiar knot in her stomach. "Michael, how much of that hotel do I own through this investment?" "Well, your $2 million investment represents about 8% of the total fund, and the hotel represents about 30% of the fund's total assets. So you own roughly 2.5% of the hotel itself. It's not a controlling interest, but it's significant enough to give you certain rights as an investor." Maya thanked Michael and hung up. 2.5% might not sound like much, but in business terms it was substantial. It meant she had the right to attend board meetings, access financial records, and vote on major policy decisions. More importantly, it meant she had legal standing to challenge how the business was being run. Maya spent the rest of the morning reading through her investment documents and learning about her rights as a partial owner. What she discovered made her smile. She had more power in this situation than she had initially realized. According to the investment agreement, any owner with more than 2% could call for an emergency board meeting if they had concerns about business practices that might affect the property's value or legal standing. Maya definitely qualified on both counts. She also learned that the hotel's management company was contracted by the investment group, which meant they ultimately answered to the owners, not the other way around. The same Robert who had dismissed her so rudely at the front desk was technically her employee. Maya decided it was time to pay another visit to the Grand Heritage Hotel, but this time she would be going in a very different capacity. She dressed carefully for the occasion. A sharp black business suit, her best jewelry, and a briefcase containing all of her ownership documents and evidence of discrimination. Maya looked like exactly what she was, a successful businesswoman who meant business. When Maya walked into the hotel lobby, she headed straight for the front desk where Robert was working. She could see him recognize her from a few days earlier, and his expression immediately became guarded. "Good afternoon," Maya said with a professional smile. "I need to speak with your general manager immediately. I'm sorry, but she's in meetings all day. Is there something I can help you with?" Maya placed her business card on the counter. "Please tell her that Maya Johnson, one of the property owners, is here to discuss some urgent business matters. I'll wait." Robert picked up the business card and read it twice. Maya could see the, confusion in his eyes as he tried to process what she had just said. "I'm sorry, did you say property owner?" "That's correct. I own a percentage of this hotel through Wilson Holdings Investment Fund. Now I need to speak with your general manager immediately, or I'll be contacting our legal team about the management contract." Maya had learned long ago that in business, confidence and clear communication could open doors that politeness couldn't. Robert's entire demeanor changed instantly. The dismissive attitude disappeared, replaced by nervous energy. "Of course, let me call her right away. Please have a seat in our VIP lounge and I'll bring you some coffee while you wait." Maya almost laughed at the complete transformation. The same man who had refused to acknowledge her reservation was now offering her VIP treatment. But she kept her expression neutral and professional. "That won't be necessary, just get your manager." Within 10 minutes, a well-dressed woman in her 40s appeared in the lobby. She walked straight to Maya with an extended hand and a nervous smile. "Ms. Johnson, I'm Patricia Wilson, the general manager. I understand you're one of our property owners. I have to admit this is somewhat unusual. We don't typically have direct contact with individual investors." "Yes, it is unusual," Maya replied. "But then again, it's also unusual for a hotel to systematically discriminate against paying customers. We need to talk." Patricia's face went pale. "I'm sorry, I'm not sure what you mean by discrimination." Maya opened her briefcase and pulled out a folder thick with documents. "I mean exactly what I said. Your hotel has been denying service to black customers while accommodating white customers without reservations. I have documentation, witness statements, and evidence of a pattern of discriminatory practices." "I think there might be some misunderstanding. We certainly don't have any policies that would—" "Ms. Wilson," Maya interrupted. "3 days ago, your front desk manager, Robert, denied me a room despite my confirmed reservation and platinum loyalty status. He then immediately gave a suite upgrade to a white man who didn't even have a reservation. I witnessed this personally, and I have similar stories from at least 6 other black customers who have experienced the same treatment." Patricia was clearly trying to process this information, while also dealing with the shock of having an owner show up unannounced with serious allegations. "I had no idea any of this was happening. If what you're saying is true, this is completely unacceptable and not in line with our company values." "I'm sure it's not in line with your stated values," Maya said. "But it's definitely happening. And as a property owner, I'm concerned about both the legal liability and the damage to our brand reputation." Maya could see Patricia doing mental calculations about lawsuits, bad publicity, and angry investors. "What can we do to address this situation?" "Well, first, I want a complete review of your current policies and staff training procedures. Second, I want to see your reservation and customer service data broken down by demographic information. And third, I want to understand exactly how this happened and what systems failed to prevent it." Patricia nodded eagerly. "Of course, absolutely. We can schedule a full review meeting with our operations team." "Actually," Maya said, "I think we need to move faster than that. I'm calling an emergency board meeting for all property owners. This affects everyone's investment, and they need to know what's been happening." The color drained completely from Patricia's face. An emergency board meeting meant that Maya's concerns would be elevated to every major investor in the property. It meant potential management changes, policy overhauls, and serious financial consequences. "Ms. Johnson, surely we can handle this internally without involving all the other investors. I'm confident we can resolve any issues quickly and effectively." Maya smiled. "I'm sure you are confident about that." But as an owner, I have a fiduciary responsibility to the other investors to make sure they're aware of practices that could result in lawsuits and damage our property's value. Of course, you're absolutely right. When would you like to schedule this meeting? Tomorrow afternoon. I'll have my assistant send you the details. As Maya walked out of the hotel, she felt a satisfaction she hadn't experienced in years. For the first time since the discrimination incident, she felt like she had real power to create change. But as she got into her car, Maya realized that this was just the beginning. Calling a board meeting was one thing, but actually convincing other investors to take action would be another challenge entirely. She pulled out her phone and started making calls to other people in her business network. If she was going to make real change happen, she would need allies. And Maya Johnson had spent years building relationships with people who understood the value of doing the right thing, especially when it also happened to be good business. By Sue. The time she got home, Maya had already spoken with 3 other investors who owned pieces of various properties through the same fund. When she explained the situation, each of them immediately understood both the moral and financial implications. Maya, said one investor, if this hotel is discriminating against customers, it's not just morally wrong, it's a lawsuit waiting to happen. And lawsuits are expensive. Another investor put it even more bluntly. Discrimination is bad for business, period. If they're turning away qualified customers because of race, they're literally throwing away money. That affects our returns. Maya went to sleep that night, knowing she had the support she needed for tomorrow's meeting. But more importantly, she had a plan that would do more than just address her personal experience. She was going to use her position as an owner to create systematic change that would prevent this from happening to anyone else. The hotel management was about to learn that their discrimination hadn't just hurt a customer, they had hurt an owner. And Maya Johnson was about to show them exactly what that meant. The emergency board meeting was scheduled for 2 o'clock on Thursday afternoon in the hotel's executive conference room. Maya arrived 30 minutes early, carrying a presentation folder that would change everything. She had spent the previous evening preparing meticulously. Maya knew that business owners cared about one thing above all else: protecting their investment. She had structured her presentation to show exactly how the hotel's discriminatory practices posed a direct threat to everyone's money. The conference room was impressive, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city and a massive mahogany table that could seat 20 people. Maya set up her laptop and arranged her documents while she waited for the other investors to arrive. Patricia Wilson, the general manager, entered first, looking nervous and carrying a thick folder of her own. She was followed by the hotel's operations director and head of human resources. Maya could tell they had been preparing damage control strategies. Then the investors started filing in. Maya recognized most of them from previous business dealings, though she had never worked with them in this context. There was Thomas Chen, who owned a chain of restaurants, Jennifer Rodriguez, a real estate developer, David Kim, who ran a successful tech consulting firm, and several others representing millions of dollars in collective investment. At exactly 2 o'clock, Maya stood up to address the group. Thank you all for coming on such short notice. I know your time is valuable, so I'll get straight to the point. We have a serious problem with how this hotel operates, and it's putting all of our investments at risk. Maya opened her laptop and displayed her first slide on the conference room's large screen. Last week, I was personally discriminated against by this hotel's staff. Despite having a confirmed reservation and platinum member status, I was denied a room. Minutes later, a white guest without any reservation was given a suite and upgrade. She could see the other investors paying close attention. Maya continued. Initially, I thought this might be an isolated incident, but my investigation revealed a systematic pattern of discrimination against black customers. Maya's next slide showed a timeline of incidents she had documented. I have statements from 6 other black customers who experienced similar treatment over the past year. I also have evidence that the hotel has been sued twice for discrimination in the past 5 years. Thomas Chen raised his hand. Maya, this is obviously concerning from a moral standpoint, but what's the business impact? Maya had been expecting this question. I'm glad you asked, Thomas. Let me show you the financial implications. Her next slide displayed a detailed analysis she had prepared with help from her business team. Discrimination lawsuits in the hospitality industry average $1.2 million in settlement costs. We've already had 2 that we know about. If this pattern continues, we can expect more. But beyond lawsuits, we're literally turning away paying customers. I calculated that if the hotel is denying service to even 10% of Black travelers, we're losing approximately $300,000 in annual revenue. That directly impacts our return on investment. Jennifer Rodriguez leaned forward. Do we have any data on actual customer rejection rates? Maya nodded toward Patricia Wilson. That's a question for hotel management. P. Patricia, can you provide demographic data on reservation cancellations and rejections? Patricia shifted uncomfortably in her seat. Well, we don't typically track that kind of demographic information. You don't track demographic information? David Kim looked surprised. How do you measure market penetration or identify growth opportunities? We focus more on overall satisfaction scores and repeat customer rates, Patricia replied weakly. Maya seized the opportunity. Which brings up another point. If you're not tracking demographic data, how do you know you're serving all potential market segments effectively? How do you identify and address service disparities? The investors were starting to look concerned, and Maya could see Patricia realizing that her lack of data was making the situation worse. Maya continued with her presentation. Beyond the financial risks, we have reputational concerns. In today's social media environment, discrimination incidents can go viral quickly. One bad experience shared online can reach millions of people and permanently damage a brand. She showed them examples of other hotels that had faced public relations disasters due to discrimination. The Royal Gardens Hotel in Chicago lost over 40% of their corporate bookings after a discrimination incident went viral. Their property value dropped 15% in 6 months. Maya could see she had the room's attention. Now it was time for her solutions. Here's what I propose we do to address this situation immediately and comprehensively. Her next slide outlined a detailed action plan. First, immediate policy changes. We implement clear written procedures for customer service that explicitly prohibit discrimination. Every reservation denial must be documented with specific business reasons. Second, comprehensive staff training. Everyone who interacts with customers gets bias training and customer service retraining. This includes front desk, concierge, housekeeping, and management. Third, accountability measures. We establish a customer feedback system that tracks demographic information and monitors for patterns of discrimination. Any employee found violating non-discrimination policies faces immediate termination. Thomas Chen nodded approvingly. These sound like reasonable steps. What about implementation timeline and costs? Maya had anticipated this question too. Implementation can begin immediately and be completed within 60 days. Training costs will be approximately $25,000, but that's a tiny fraction of what we'd pay in lawsuit settlements. Jennifer Rodriguez asked, what about ongoing monitoring? How do we make sure these problems don't happen again? Excellent question, Maya replied. I propose we establish a customer experience committee that includes investor representation. This committee would review customer feedback quarterly and have authority to implement additional changes as needed. David Kim raised another practical concern. What about current staff members who might be resistant to these changes? Maya looked directly at Patricia Wilson. That's really a management question. But from an investor perspective, we need staff who can provide excellent service to all customers. Anyone who can't meet that standard shouldn't be working in hospitality. Patricia finally spoke up. We're absolutely committed to implementing these changes. In fact, we've already started reviewing our current policies and identifying areas for improvement. That's good to hear, Maya said. But I want to be clear about something. This isn't just about policy changes. This is about fundamentally shifting the culture of how this hotel operates. Maya's final slide showed projected outcomes. If we implement these changes effectively, we can expect to see increased customer satisfaction, reduced legal risk, improved reputation, and higher revenue from previously underserved market segments. On the other hand, if we don't address these issues, we can expect continued lawsuits, negative publicity, and declining property values. Maya closed her laptop and looked around the room. I know this situation is uncomfortable, and I know change can be difficult. But as business owners, we have both a moral obligation and a financial incentive to ensure our property serves all customers with equal respect. Thomas Chen was the first to respond. Maya, thank you for bringing this to our attention. Obviously, discrimination is unacceptable from any perspective. I support implementing all of your proposed changes immediately. One by one, the other investors voiced their agreement. Jennifer Rodriguez added, I also think we should consider whether our current management company is the right fit for our property going forward. Patricia Wilson looked panicked. Please, we're committed to making these changes work. Give us a chance to prove that we can turn this situation around. Maya had been waiting for this moment. Patricia, I appreciate your willingness to change, but commitment isn't enough. We need accountability. I propose that all policy changes be implemented within 30 days, with progress reports to the investor committee every week. Additionally, I want to see concrete evidence of culture change, not just policy adjustments. That means tracking customer satisfaction by demographic groups, monitoring employee compliance, and demonstrating real improvement in service delivery. David Kim nodded. And if we don't see satisfactory progress? Maya's response was firm but professional. Then we'll need to consider alternative management arrangements that better align with our expectations and values. The meeting continued for another hour, with investors asking detailed questions and Patricia Wilson promising rapid implementation of changes. By the end, Maya had achieved everything she had hoped for and more. As the other investors filed out, several stopped to thank Maya for bringing the situation to their attention. Thomas Chen pulled her aside. Maya, I have to say the way you handled this was masterful. You turned a terrible personal experience into a comprehensive business solution. Thanks, Thomas. But honestly, this was never just about me. If we don't address systematic problems, they'll keep affecting other people. And from a business perspective, discrimination is just bad for everyone involved. As Maya packed up her materials, she felt a sense of accomplishment that went beyond financial success. She had used her position as an owner to create real, measurable change that would benefit countless future customers. But Maya also knew that the real work was just beginning. Policies were easy to write, but changing culture would require ongoing vigilance and commitment. She was prepared for that challenge because Maya Johnson had never backed down from anything important in her life. The hotel was about to undergo a transformation that would shock everyone involved. 6 months later, Maya walked into the Grand Heritage Hotel lobby and barely recognized the place. It wasn't that the physical space had changed much. The marble floors and crystal chandeliers were still there. But the entire atmosphere felt completely different. The first thing she noticed was the diversity of the staff. The front desk team now included people from various backgrounds, and everyone she observed seemed genuinely engaged with customers, regardless of who they were serving. Maya had been monitoring the hotel's progress closely through monthly investor reports and quarterly site visits. The transformation had been more dramatic and successful than anyone had expected. Patricia Wilson approached Maya with a genuine smile. Over the past 6 months, Patricia had proven herself to be genuinely committed to change, though it hadn't been easy for her. Maya, welcome back. I have the quarterly customer satisfaction reports ready for your review. I think you're going to be pleased with what we've accomplished. They walked to the executive offices, passing the new customer service training room where Maya could see a session in progress. The trainer was discussing unconscious bias and cultural sensitivity with a group of housekeeping staff. In Patricia's office, Maya reviewed the latest data. The numbers were impressive. Customer satisfaction scores had increased by 32% overall, with the most dramatic improvement coming from Black customers whose satisfaction ratings had increased by over 60%. These numbers are excellent, Maya said, reviewing the charts. But I'm more interested in the specific feedback. What are customers actually saying? Patricia pulled out a folder of customer reviews and testimonials. Here's what really tells the story. We're getting comments like, "Felt welcomed from the moment I walked in," and "Staff went out of their way to make sure I was comfortable." These are coming from customers of all backgrounds. Maya read through several reviews. One stood out to her. "As a Black business traveler, I've stayed at many hotels where I felt tolerated rather than welcomed. The Grand Heritage Hotel made me feel valued as a customer from check-in to check-out. I'll definitely be back." "What about employee feedback?" Maya asked. "How are staff members responding to the changes?" Patricia's expression became more serious. "I'll be honest, it wasn't smooth at first. We had to let go of 3 employees who couldn't adapt to our new standards. Robert, the manager who initially denied your service, was one of them." Maya nodded. She had expected some resistance. "And the employees who stayed?" "Most of them have embraced the changes once they understood the business benefits. Our employee satisfaction scores have actually improved because staff feel more confident in their ability to handle diverse customers appropriately." Maya was curious about the specifics. "Tell me about Robert. What happened there?" Patricia sighed. "After our board meeting, I had a direct conversation with him about the incident with you and the new expectations going forward. Initially, he claimed it was all a misunderstanding and that he would do better. But during the first week of our new monitoring system, we caught him giving preferential treatment to some customers while being dismissive to others. When I confronted him with the data, he became defensive and said he was just being efficient with his time." "So you terminated him?" "Not immediately. We sent him to the bias training program and gave him a clear warning. But 2 weeks later, a Black family complained that he had treated them rudely and made them feel unwelcome. That's when I knew he had to go." Maya was impressed with how Patricia had handled the situation. It showed real commitment to change, rather than just going through the motions. "What surprised me," Patricia continued, "was how much the other staff supported that decision. Several employees came to me privately and said they were relieved because Robert's behavior had been making their jobs harder too." Maya asked about the financial impact of all the changes. As an investor, she needed to know whether doing the right thing was also good business. "Actually, that's the best part," Patricia said, pulling out another set of reports. "Our revenue is up 18% compared to the same period last year. We're attracting new customers, particularly from corporate accounts that prioritize diversity and inclusion. We've also become the preferred hotel for several major conferences focused on diversity in business. Those events bring in hundreds of guests and significant revenue." Maya reviewed the financial data. The numbers were impressive, but she wanted to understand the underlying trends. "Are we keeping these new customers, or is this just a temporary boost?" "Our repeat customer rate has increased by 25%, Patricia replied. "People are coming back because they're having genuinely positive experiences, and they're recommending us to others." Maya smiled as she looked at the data. This was exactly what she had hoped would happen, that providing excellent service to everyone would actually improve the business. "There's something else I want to show you," Patricia said. She led Maya to a wall display near the executive offices. "We've created a customer appreciation gallery featuring positive feedback from guests of all backgrounds." Maya read through the displayed testimonials and photos. There were thank you notes from business conferences, wedding parties, and family reunions. The diversity of satisfied customers was remarkable. One testimonial particularly caught Maya's attention. It was from a young Black woman who had stayed at the hotel during her job interview process. She wrote, "The staff at Grand Heritage Hotel made me feel confident and welcome during one of the most important weeks of my career. I got the job, and I'll always remember how this hotel helped me feel my best." Stories like that are why this work matters, Maya said to Patricia. "We're not just improving a business, we're affecting people's lives." Patricia nodded. "I have to admit, when you first brought these issues to our attention, I thought of it primarily as a compliance matter. But seeing the actual impact on customers has changed my perspective completely." Maya spent the rest of the afternoon touring the hotel and observing operations. She watched front desk interactions, spoke with housekeeping staff, and observed the lunch service in the hotel restaurant. What impressed her most was how natural everything seemed. The improved service didn't feel forced or artificial. Staff members appeared to genuinely enjoy serving diverse customers, and guests seemed relaxed and comfortable throughout the hotel. During her final meeting with Patricia, Maya addressed the long-term sustainability of the changes. Patricia, you've done excellent work implementing these improvements, but I want to make sure this progress continues long-term. What systems do we have in place to maintain these standards? We've built the bias training into our regular employee development program so every new hire goes through it. We also do refresher training quarterly for all staff. Additionally, we've made customer service equity a key performance indicator for all managers. It's tied to their annual reviews and compensation. Maya was pleased to hear about the systematic approach. What about monitoring and feedback? We continue to track customer satisfaction by demographic groups, and we review any complaints that suggest discriminatory treatment. We also have an anonymous reporting system for employees to flag concerning behavior. As Maya prepared to leave, she reflected on how much had changed since that frustrating evening 6 months ago, when she had been denied a room. Patricia, I want you to know that I'm impressed with the transformation here. You and your team have shown that it's possible to create real change when there's genuine commitment. Thank you, Maya. I also want you to know that this experience has made me a better manager and a better person. I learned things about unconscious bias and systemic discrimination that I never understood before. Maya walked through the lobby one more time before leaving. The same marble floors and crystal chandeliers were there, but the hotel now truly lived up to its reputation for excellence. For everyone. As she got into her car, Maya thought about the broader impact of what had happened. The Grand Heritage Hotel had become a model for other properties in the investment fund. 3 other hotels had voluntarily implemented similar changes after seeing the business success. Maya had also been invited to speak at several industry conferences about the business case for inclusive hospitality. Her story had inspired other business owners to examine their own practices and make improvements. But what mattered most to Maya was simpler than all the business metrics and industry recognition. She had turned a personal experience of discrimination into a systematic solution that would prevent other people from facing the same treatment. Maya's phone buzzed with a text message from her friend Keisha, the marketing executive who had shared her own story of discrimination at the hotel. Just stayed at the Grand Heritage for a client meeting. Maya, I can't believe it's the same place. The service was incredible, and I felt genuinely welcomed the entire time. Thank you for fighting to make this change happen. Maya smiled as she read the message. That text perfectly captured why this whole experience had been worth it. She had used her position as an owner, not just to address her own treatment, but to create lasting change that would benefit countless other customers. The hotel that had once shocked everyone with its discrimination had transformed into a place that shocked everyone with its commitment to excellence for all customers. And Maya Johnson had proven that sometimes the most powerful response to injustice isn't anger or revenge, but strategic action that creates positive change for everyone involved.